Hello students. Today we will see the concept of root locus. Root locus. So before we begin, let me just give some brief background of the root locus technique. The relative stability and the transient performance of a closed loop control system are directly related to the location of closed loop poles of the characteristic equation in the S-plane. If the poles are lying far away in the left half of the S-plane, system is completely stable. As we move away, as we move towards the imaginary axis, we come across the dominant poles. So the stability, relative stability, completely depends upon the location of poles in the S-plane. It is frequently necessary to adjust one or more system parameters in order to obtain suitable root locations. Therefore, it is important to determine how the roots of the characteristic equation of a given system migrate about the S-plane as the parameters are varied. That is, it is useful, this process is useful to determine the locus of roots in the S-plane as parameter is varied. The root locus method was introduced by Evans in 1948 and has been developed and utilized extensively in control engineering practice. The root locus technique is a graphical method for sketching the locus of roots in the S-plane as a given parameter is varied. In fact, the root locus method provides the engineer with a measure of sensitivity of roots of the system to a variation in a parameter being considered. Root locus technique may be used to great advantage in conjunction with the Routh-Hurwitz criteria. Now, before we begin with the actual procedure of sketching the root locus, we need to understand an important concept, that is angle condition and magnitude condition. Let me write here angle condition and magnitude condition. What are these conditions that we will try to understand? Let us consider a system with R of S as an input, and let me write this as a summation. This is a gain K. This is a system transfer function G of S, and let us assume that this is a closed loop system, right? And this one is Y of S. Y of S. The dynamic performance of this closed loop system is described by the closed loop transfer function. Let me write T of S is equal to Y of S upon R of S. y of s upon r of s. In more specific way, I can write k times g of s divided by 1 plus k g of s, which further I can write p of s upon q of s. This is denominator polynomial, this is numerator polynomial. So where q of s and p of s are polynomials in S. Now the roots of the characteristic equation. Roots of the characteristic equation, let me write q of s is equal to 1 plus k times g of s. Roots of the characteristic equation determine the modes of the response of the system. So this is the characteristic equation where k is variable parameter, where k is variable parameter, variable parameter, and we are assuming that this k is varied from infinity and is greater than 0. That means in this range it is varied. The characteristics roots of the system, characteristics roots of the system must satisfy this equation. They must satisfy. So as k is varied from 0 to infinity, whatever roots we will get, we will plot those roots. We will plot those roots in the S-plane, and that is nothing but our root locus. So the characteristic roots of the system must satisfy this equation, right? Let me write this as equation number 1. Equation number 1, where the roots lie in the S-plane. Because as S is a complex variable, S is a complex variable, this equation 2 can be written as in the magnitude and angle form k g of s magnitude angle k g of s is equal to -1 plus j0, -1 plus j0. This is magnitude and this is angle. This is magnitude and this is angle, right? Now from this equation, let me write this as equation 2. From this equation, I'm sorry, let me write this as equation 2. From this equation, we can write mod of kg of s is equal to 1 and angle kg of s is equal to 180 plus, this is small k times 360 degree, k times 360 degree, where the small k is equal to 0 plus minus 1 plus minus 2 and so on and so on. So this is magnitude condition and this is angle condition, right? This is magnitude condition and this angle condition, right? Where k is varying from 0 to plus minus 1 plus minus 2 up to infinity. So here I want to write down the statement as the root locus, the root locus is the path of the roots of the characteristics equation traced out, traced out in the S plane, in the S plane as a system parameter, as the system parameter varies from 0 to infinity, from 0 to infinity. The root locus is the path of the roots of the characteristic equation traced out in the S-plane as the system parameter varies from 0 to infinity. 0 to infinity. So this is angle and magnitude condition. This is very important that we have understood first of all before understanding the steps for sketching the root locus. I hope this is clear to you. Now we can move ahead with the steps for sketching the root locus. Okay, now let me write here steps to sketch root locus. Step, steps to sketch root locus. Now, step 1, the very first step, that is step 1, from given open loop transfer function, from given open loop transfer function or from given characteristic equation, determine open loop poles and zeros. Open loop poles and zeros. Let n is equal to number of open loop poles and m is number of open loop zeros, right? N is number of open loop poles and m is number of open loop zeros. Then next step, step 2, step 2, in this case, here I forgot to mention, open loop poles are to be represented by cross and open loop zeros are to be represented by zeros, right? Open loop poles in the S plane, if I'm drawing this S plane here, so this is imaginary axis, this is real axis, negative real axis. So if there is a pole, I can indicate it by a cross. If there is a zero, I can indicate by a zero. So indicate poles by cross and indicate zeros by zero. Okay. Now next point is determine the number of separate loci. Determine the number of separate loci, right? So we need to identify the region on the real axis where root locus can exist. We need to determine the region on the real axis where the root locus can exist. Now how to identify this region? This region is identified The region on the real axis is said to have the root locus if the number of poles and zeros to the left of that is an odd number. If the number of poles and zeros to the left of it is an odd number, then we can say that that particular region on the negative real axis is a root locus. Now in this case, when we are determining the root locus region on the real axis, there is no need to consider the complex conjugate poles. There is no need to consider the complex conjugate poles. If I want to demonstrate this by the example, then I can indicate here. Suppose this is the system and I am indicating some poles, zeros, something like this. There are two zeros, this one, and there are two poles. And also there is a complex conjugate pole here. Now here on the real axis, we need to determine which region is having a root locus, right? So here I must say that this region will have root locus because to the right of this there is only one zero, and this one is the odd number. This one is the odd number. Similarly, if I consider this region, to right hand side of this region there is 1 2 3 total. If I count it, two zeros and one pole, so this number is going to be 3. So this is going to be root locus region. But here if you consider this region, to the right of this there is only one pole and zero, and this number is going to be, addition is going to be 2, which is even number. So this is not going to be root locus region. And we are not considering complex conjugate poles. We are not considering complex conjugate poles in this case. Okay. So now this is the second step. What is second step? Determine determine the number of separate loci, right? That is the region on the real axis, which is having root locus, and this is determined by a region on the real axis is said to have the root locus if the number of poles and zeros to the right of it is a odd number. Okay. Now step 3. Step 3. Let me write here. What is step 3 now? Step 3 is we need to determine the centroid. Determine centroid. Determine the centroid and angle of asymptotes. Determine the centroid and angle of asymptotes. Now how to determine this? Centroid is determined as sigma is represented as a centroid is equal to summation of open loop, summation of real part of the poles, summation of real part of poles minus summation real part of zeros. Here we have noted poles and zeros m and n. So summation of real part of poles minus summation of real part of zeros divided by n minus m. Divided by n minus m. This will give us the centroid. This will give us the centroid. And at this centroid we have to determine angles of the asymptotes. From this centroid, asymptotes will start. So we need to determine the angle of asymptotes. Now how to determine angle of asymptotes? Let me tell you. Angle of asymptotes. So angle of asymptotes are determined by, let me indicate this by phi a, and angle of asymptotes are determined by 2k 2k plus 1 divided by n minus m. 2k plus 1 divided by n minus m into 180 degree, where this small k is equal to 0, 1, 2 up to n minus m minus 1. N minus m minus 1. Right? This is angle of asymptotes. This is going to be angle of asymptotes. Okay. Now next step, step 4. Step 4 is to determine the breakaway point on the real axis. Determine breakaway point on the real axis. Breakaway point on the real axis. Determine breakaway point on the real axis. Now this is determined by using Routh-Hurwitz criteria. Using Routh-Hurwitz criteria. Routh-Hurwitz criteria. Determine the breakaway point on the real axis. So where this root locus is touching the imaginary axis, that is determined by using Routh-Hurwitz criteria. When we will be solving some examples, that time we will understand it, how to use it. So that is step number 4. That is step number 4. Now let me erase some parts so that I can write the next step. Okay, next step is step 5. Step 5. What is step 5? Step 5 is I'm sorry, this is not breakaway point. This is determined by some other method. This is Routh-Hurwitz criteria is used to determine the point of intersection with the imaginary axis. The point of intersection with imaginary axis. Imaginary axis. This breakaway point is determined by using. Now for this, we take or we write the characteristic equation in terms of k. Write characteristic equation in terms of k, and then dk by ds is equal to 0. Equate this to 0. Take a derivative of this term, dk by ds is equal to 0, and determine the value of s. And determine the value of s. So this is for breakaway point, and for finding the point of intersection with the imaginary axis, we use Routh-Hurwitz criteria. We use Routh-Hurwitz criteria. And next step, step 6 is determine angle of departure and angle of arrival. Angle of departure and angle of arrival. Angle of departure is for the complex poles, and angle of arrival is for the complex zeros. So that we need to determine. And last step is step 7, sketch root locus. Sketch root locus. So these are the steps which are used to sketch the root locus. These are the steps which are used to sketch the root locus. These are the 7 steps to sketch the root locus. So first step is to identify the number of open loop poles and zeros. Let n is equal to number of poles and m is equal to number of zeros. Mark them on the S-plane with the cross and 0. Second step is determine the root locus region. Third step is determine the centroid. Fourth step is determine the breakaway point. Fifth step is determine the point of intersection with the imaginary axis. Sixth step is determine the angle of arrival and departure. Angle of departure is for the complex poles and angle of arrival is for the complex zeros. And seventh step is to sketch the root locus. Next lecture we will see how to sketch root locus with example. Thank you.